The sky over New York burned red that morning. Dr. Elena Reyes stood at her laboratory window, coffee mug frozen halfway to her lips. Alien ships, shaped like giant dark teardrops, pushed through the clouds. Her hands shook. For 3 years, she had warned everyone about the strange signals, the odd disappearances, the silent invasion. No one listened. "It's happening," she whispered. Her lab assistant Marco rushed in, face pale. "They're everywhere, Dr. Reyes. London, Tokyo, Moscow, all reporting the same ships." Elena's phone buzzed with emergency alerts. Her computer screens lit up with news from across the world. The Voidborn Collective had finally shown itself after decades of hiding among humans. "We need to reach Central Command," Elena said, grabbing her research tablet. Her work on the alien biology might help, if it wasn't already too late. Outside, people ran through the streets as shadows from the ships darkened the city. Military jets screamed overhead, only to explode midair before they could even attack. The Voidborn had planned this perfectly. Elena and Marco raced to her car, but the roads were jammed with panicked drivers. "We'll never make it downtown," Marco said. A loud boom shook the ground. 2 blocks away, people began dropping to the street, their bodies twitching. "They're releasing the spores," Elena said, pulling up her shirt to cover her mouth. "We've got minutes before it reaches us." They abandoned the car and ran for the subway. Underground might be safer, at least for now. As they descended the stairs, Elena's specialized detector began beeping. The air was still clean down here. Hundreds of scared people huddled on the platform. A military officer was trying to keep order. When he saw Elena's government ID, he pulled her aside. "Dr. Reyes, from the Xenobiology Division, HQ has been trying to reach you. All communication systems are compromised," Elena explained. "The Voidborn have had sleeper agents in our defense networks for years." "That's what I've been trying to tell everyone." The officer's radio crackled to life. A desperate voice reported that Washington had fallen. The Pentagon was overrun. The president's bunker had been breached. "How did they find the bunker?" The officer whispered in horror. "Because they've been among us all along," Elena said, "learning our weaknesses, mapping our defenses." The radio continued with reports of major cities falling worldwide. Earth's space fleet, humanity's last great hope, was being torn apart in orbit. On her tablet, Elena pulled up the live satellite feed. The planet's defense ships were scattered like broken toys around Earth. Then the feed cut to a Voidborn transmission, a swirling mass of darkness with voices speaking as one. "Resistance is inefficient. Individuality is weakness. Join us or face extinction." Elena felt cold despair wash over her. Humanity had hours, maybe days left. Then her emergency transmitter picked up something strange, a signal cutting through the Voidborn jamming. The code was unlike anything she'd ever seen, but somehow felt human in origin. She held the device closer, adjusting the frequency. The message was faint but clear. "Hold position. Resistance forces inbound. Black flag ships approaching solar system. Hope comes." Elena looked up at the frightened faces around her. They didn't know yet, but somewhere out there, someone, or something, was coming to help. She just prayed they would arrive in time. 3 months had passed since Earth fell. The blue planet now had sickly purple clouds swirling across its surface as the Voidborn changed it to suit their needs. Commander Jackson Wee crouched behind a broken wall on Mars Colony, watching Voidborn patrol ships glide past. His once pristine military uniform was now torn and dusty. Beside him, 5 soldiers waited for his signal. "Now," he whispered. They darted from their hiding spot, moving silently toward the Voidborn supply depot. Mars Colony had become one of the last places humans still fought back. Their guerrilla attacks could not win the war, but they kept hope alive. We checked his oxygen meter. 4 hours left. They couldn't stay out long in the thin Martian atmosphere. "Team 2 in position," crackled his radio. "Ready to hit their fuel cells." "Copy that," White replied. On my mark. A strange sound cut through their channel. A series of beeps, then numbers. Y frowned. It wasn't the first time they'd heard this mysterious signal. It seemed to be counting down to something. Sir, look. One of his soldiers pointed to the sky. Far above Mars, the stars seemed to be shifting, bending around something massive. On Europa, Jupiter's ice moon, Dr. Elena Reyes peered through a microscope at a void-borne tissue sample. The underground research station was cold and damp, but it was safe from alien sensors. Look at how it responds to the electrical current, she told her fellow scientist, Dr. Patel. The cellular structure reorganizes instantaneously. That's how they communicate so quickly, Patel nodded. Their bodies are like living radio towers. Elena's detector beeped. She had built it to monitor the strange signal they'd been receiving. The countdown had accelerated. 24 hours now, she said. Whatever's coming will be here tomorrow. The ice above them rumbled. Something was happening on the surface. Elena rushed to the periscope and adjusted it to look up at Jupiter. The gas giant's massive form dominated the view, but against its swirling clouds, something impossible was happening. The space around Jupiter is folding, she whispered in awe. In the asteroid belt, 16-year-old Zoe Okello floated through the abandoned mining station, using small bursts from her hand thrusters to navigate. Her small group of civilian survivors had moved between these stations for months, always one step ahead of the void-borne patrols. Found some water filters, she called to the others, and some preserved food. Their current home was an old rock processing facility named Series 9. They had power from the solar arrays, but air would run out in a week. Then they'd need to move again. Zoe's makeshift communications array pinged. She had built it from salvaged parts, designed to listen for other human survivors. The mysterious counting signal was getting stronger. Guys, come see this, she called to the others. The signal changed. The numbers had stopped. Now it was a voice, faint but clear. Attention human survivors. Prepare for contact. The Black Flag fleet has arrived. Zoe rushed to the station's observation dome. The others joined her, their faces pressed against the glass. Far away, at the edge of the asteroid belt, space itself seemed to tear open. Through the rift came ships, massive black vessels with crimson flags fluttering impossibly in the vacuum of space. The void-borne patrol ships immediately changed course, racing toward the newcomers. They're afraid, Zoe whispered. The void-borne are actually afraid. The black ships fired, bright beams of light that bent and curved, following the void-borne ships no matter how they tried to evade. Who are they? Someone asked. Zoe's communication array crackled again. A strong, clear voice came through. We are the Corsairs of New Humanity. We've returned from the future. Hold position. Help is coming. The massive black ships moved through space with impossible grace. Their hulls absorbed light rather than reflected it, making them look like moving holes in the fabric of space. Each one flew a blood-red flag that somehow waved in the vacuum, defying the laws of physics. Zoe Okello and her group of survivors watched from their asteroid hideout as the newcomers decimated the void-borne patrol ships. The aliens fired their weapons, streams of purple energy that simply vanished when they touched the black ships. They can't even hurt them, Zoe whispered in awe. The largest black ship, nearly the size of a small moon, opened what looked like hangar doors. Smaller vessels poured out, heading in different directions across the solar system. One was coming straight toward their asteroid. Should we run? Asked Malik, one of the older survivors. Zoe shook her head. They said they're human. If they wanted to kill us, they would have just destroyed the whole asteroid. The ship slowed as it approached, finally coming to rest outside their airlock. It was sleek and predatory, with red markings that looked like war paint across its hull. The airlock hissed open. Zoe's heart hammered in her chest as a figure stepped through. The person was tall and wore a black uniform with red trim. When they removed their helmet, Zoe gasped. The woman looked human, but not quite. Her skin had a faint metallic sheen, and her eyes glowed with tiny red lights around the irises. Implants were visible beneath her skin, tracing patterns along her neck and face. "I am Lieutenant Rayer of the Temporal Vengeance," she said. Her voice sounded almost musical. "We've come to evacuate you to our flagship." On Europa, Dr. Elena Reyes watched as another black ship landed on the icy surface. The ground shook as the ship's strange engines powered down. "Should we trust them?" Dr. Patil asked. Elena nodded slowly. "They're fighting the Voidborn. That makes them our allies, at least for now." When the ship's passengers entered their underground lab, Elena was shocked to see their leader was a woman who looked eerily like herself, but older, with cybernetic enhancements and a hardness in her eyes that spoke of years of warfare. "Dr. Elena Reyes," the woman said with a sad smile. "I'm Dr. Reyes Alpha. You could say I'm you, but from about 300 years in the future." Commander Wei and his Mars resistance fighters stood in the main hangar of the flagship Temporal Vengeance. Around them, dozens of other human survivors from across the solar system were being brought aboard. Many were crying with relief, while others stared in shock at their strange rescuers. A woman in an elaborate black captain's uniform approached Wei. She moved with fluid grace that suggested extensive bodily modifications. "Commander Wei," she said, offering her hand. "I'm Captain Eliza Blackwood. Welcome aboard." Wei shook her hand cautiously. "Your ships, they're unlike anything I've ever seen. 300 years of technological advancement, necessity and desperation will do that," Blackwood replied grimly. "In our timeline, the Voidborn nearly wiped humanity out. It took us centuries to fight back." "You're saying you're from the future?" Wei asked skeptically. Captain Blackwood nodded. "We discovered a way to travel back through time. It's a one-way trip for us, and we can only remain in this timeline for 9 days before temporal physics forces us back." She gestured to a holographic display showing the solar system. "We've brought a weapon that can erase the Voidborn from existence, but we need to reach their hive mind nexus on Earth." "Why come back?" Wei asked. "Why risk everything?" "Because in our timeline, humanity survived, but at a terrible cost," Blackwood said, her enhanced eyes glowing faintly. "We've come to give you a second chance, a chance to defeat the Voidborn before you have to become like us." She turned to address all the survivors gathered in the hangar. "We are the Corsairs of new humanity. We've sacrificed our future to save yours." The survivors gathered in the vast command center of the Temporal Vengeance. The room hummed with technology beyond their understanding. Holographic screens floated in the air without projectors. Corsair crew members worked at stations, their movements swift and synchronized like parts of a single machine. Elena studied their rescuers with growing unease. These future humans had changed so much. Most had metal implants visible beneath their skin. Some had extra mechanical limbs. Their eyes all had the same faint red glow around the irises. "They're so different from us," Zoe whispered beside her. Captain Blackwood stepped onto a raised platform at the center of the room. The platform lifted her higher so everyone could see her. "We have evacuated all surviving human groups we could detect," she announced. Her voice carried easily through the room without any visible speakers. "Now we must plan our attack on the Voidborn hive mind nexus." Commander Wei pushed his way to the front. "Before we plan anything, we need answers. Who exactly are you people? What happened to humanity in your time?" Blackwood's expression darkened. "We are what humanity had to become to survive. The Voidborn nearly destroyed us. In our timeline, Earth fell, just as it has in yours. But we kept fighting, for centuries." She waved her hand, and a holographic image appeared. A devastated Earth, its surface covered in purple Voidborn structures. To fight them, we had to understand them. And to understand them, she hesitated, we had to become more like them. A murmur ran through the crowd of survivors. "What does that mean?" Wei demanded. Lieutenant Rayer stepped forward. "It means we adapted. The Voidborn's greatest strength is their hive mind, their ability to think and act as one. So we created our own version. To demonstrate, Rayer and 3 other Corsairs stood in a circle. Their eyes glowed brighter, and they moved in perfect unison, like dancers following invisible cues. "You became like them?" Elena asked, horrified. "You abandoned individual consciousness." "Not abandoned," Dr. Rice Alpha explained, joining the conversation. "We evolved beyond it. We can still think as individuals, but we can also join the battle mind when needed." Wei shook his head in disgust. "So you're asking us to help you so we can become what? Half-machine, hive-mind soldiers like you?" "No," Captain Blackwood said firmly. "We're here to give you a different path. The temporal weapon we've brought can erase the Voidborn from existence. Your timeline can be free of them, without becoming what we became." Wei wasn't convinced. "And this weapon, how does it work?" "It creates a temporal cascade that removes the Voidborn from the timeline completely," Blackwood explained. "But to deploy it, we need to reach their hive-mind nexus beneath what was once your Pentagon." "That's suicide," Wei argued. "Earth is completely overrun." "We have the technology to get a small team in," Blackwood countered. "But we need your help. People who know present-day Earth, who can guide us." Wei and Blackwood stared at each other, tension crackling between them. "There's something you're not telling us," Wei said softly. "What happens to you, the Corsairs, if you change the timeline like this?" The room fell silent. Blackwood's enhanced eyes dimmed slightly. "If we succeed," she said finally, "our timeline, our version of humanity, will never exist. We will be erased, along with 300 years of suffering. We consider that a fair trade." Elena looked around at the Corsairs, seeing them with new eyes. These strange, evolved humans had come back in time on a suicide mission to save their ancestors, even though success meant their own extinction. Elena sat nervously as Dr. Rice Alpha prepared the neural interface. The lab on the Corsair ship was spotless, filled with equipment she couldn't even begin to understand. "This won't hurt," her future self assured her. "It will allow you to experience some of my memories, to understand why we evolved as we did." "I'm not sure I want to understand," Elena admitted. Dr. Rice Alpha's expression softened. "Knowledge is never the enemy, Elena. Even painful knowledge." The interface, a delicate crown of light, settled over Elena's head. The world dissolved around her. Suddenly, she was running through burning ruins. She felt older, tired. The sky was dark with void-born ships. Around her, humans with early versions of implants fought desperately. The memory shifted. She was in a lab similar to this one, but cruder, working frantically as alarms blared, testing the first neural link between human minds. Another shift. Decades passed in an instant. She felt herself changing, growing less individual and more connected. The horror of it nearly made her pull away, but beneath that was something else, a sense of belonging she had never known. The memories ended. Elena gasped, tears streaming down her face. "You see now," Dr. Rice Alpha said quietly. "It wasn't a choice between humanity and monsters. It was a choice between extinction and adaptation." In another part of the ship, Zoe had discovered something extraordinary. The ship's AI systems contained thousands of digitized human minds, the preserved consciousness of Corsairs who had physically died but lived on in the fleet's computers. "They're not just memories," she explained to Commander Wei. "They're actual people. The Corsairs found a way to save themselves even after death." Wei frowned. "That's not living. That's just existing as code." "Is it?" Zoe challenged. "What makes us human? Our bodies or our thoughts?" Before Wei could answer, alarms blared throughout the ship. The Voidborn had launched a massive counterattack. On the bridge, Captain Blackwood directed the battle with cool efficiency. Her crew moved as one, their shared battle mind allowing them to react with impossible speed. Elena and Wei watched in awe as the Black Flag ships danced through space, evading Voidborn weapons while landing devastating blows of their own. "They're not attacking randomly," Elena noticed suddenly. "Look at the pattern." She pointed to a tactical display. The Voidborn forces were specifically targeting Corsairs whose genetic signatures matched present-day humans. They understand the danger of temporal paradox, Blackwood confirmed grimly. If they kill your future selves, they disrupt our mission. A massive blast rocked the ship. Damage reports flashed across screens. Hull breach in Section 7. A crew member called out. Voidborn boarding parties detected, called another. Captain Blackwood's expression hardened. All hands, prepare for close combat. Protect the present-day humans at all costs. She turned to Wei. Commander, your military experience is valuable, but you've never fought Voidborn face-to-face. Stay close to my team. Wei bristled. My people can fight. Not like this, Blackwood said. The Voidborn don't just kill, they convert. One touch from their tendrils, and your mind begins to join their collective. Weapons were distributed, strange guns that hummed with energy. Elena was surprised when Dr. Reyes Alpha handed her one too. I'm a scientist, not a soldier, Elena protested. In our timeline, her future self said sadly, everyone eventually became both. The ship shuddered again as more Voidborn forces attached themselves to the hull, cutting through with plasma torches. Present-day humans and future Corsairs prepared to fight side by side. Despite their differences, they now faced a common enemy. The first bulkhead door melted away, revealing the nightmare forms of the Voidborn boarding party, writhing masses of purple-black tissue with too many limbs and glowing eyes. The battle lasted for 6 hours. When it finally ended, the Corsairs had pushed back the Voidborn boarding parties, but at a heavy cost. Dozens of crew members had been lost, and part of the ship was sealed off due to damage. In the aftermath, Captain Blackwood called the mission team to the strategy room. Holograms of Earth floated in the center, showing the once blue planet now wrapped in purple clouds. We have 7 days left before we must return to our timeline, Blackwood said. The Voidborn will be expecting another direct attack. So instead, we go with stealth. She waved her hand, and the hologram zoomed in on what had once been Washington, D.C., now transformed into a twisted landscape of alien structures. The Pentagon still exists, buried beneath these growth chambers, she explained. The hive mind nexus is in the lowest level. Our plan is to infiltrate with a small team. How do we get past their defenses? Wei asked. Lieutenant Rayer stepped forward, holding what looked like a small silver disc. With this, it's biological camouflage technology. It will make us appear as Voidborn to their sensors. The team will be small, Blackwood continued. Commander Wei for his knowledge of Earth's military installations. Dr. Rice for her understanding of Voidborn biology. The young hacker Zoe for her technical skills. And 3 of our Corsairs specialized in infiltration. Elena looked at Zoe, who seemed both terrified and excited by the assignment. When do we leave? Wei asked. Tomorrow, Blackwood replied. First, you need training. The training was brutal. For hours, they practiced moving like the Voidborn, communicating without words, using the strange weapons the Corsairs had provided. The hardest part was learning to use the camouflage technology. The silver discs attached to their spines, sending tendrils of cool metal under their skin. When activated, their bodies appeared to transform into the writhing, many-limbed forms of the Voidborn. I can't do this, Elena gasped after another failed attempt. The disguise had slipped when she panicked, revealing her human form. You can, Dr. Rice Alpha insisted, but you need to allow a partial neural link with us. The disguise requires coordinated movements. You want me to join your hive mind? Elena asked, horrified. Just temporarily, her future self assured her. Just enough to maintain the disguise. The next day, they boarded a stealth shuttle. As they approached Earth, Elena looked out the viewport at her transformed homeworld. The oceans had turned a deep purple. Strange structures reached from the surface into the atmosphere like giant twisted trees. They're terraforming, Wei said quietly, turning Earth into something they can live on. The shuttle slipped past Voidborn patrols, using advanced cloaking technology. They landed in what had once been a forest outside the capital, now a withered field of alien fungus. As they stepped out, they activated their disguises. Elena felt the strange sensation of the camouflage technology spreading over her body. To any observer, they now appeared as a group of void-born drones. They made their way toward the ruins of Washington, D.C., moving with the strange, flowing gait of the aliens. Twice they passed real void-born patrols, Elena's heart racing each time. Finally, they reached what had once been the Pentagon. The building was mostly buried now, covered in pulsing alien growth. Only one entrance remained visible. Remember, Y whispered through their secure comm link. Once inside, we'll have 30 minutes to reach the Nexus, plant the temporal weapon, and get out before it activates. As they approached the entrance, 2 guard forms moved to block their path. Genetic verification required. The guards gurgled in the strange language of the Voidborn. Elena felt her disguise beginning to falter under the stress. Panic rose in her throat. Dr. Ray's Alpha's voice came through her earpiece. "Link with me, now, or we'll be discovered." With no other choice, Elena accepted the neural link. Immediately, her mind expanded, connecting with the other Corsairs. The sensation was terrifying, and yet oddly efficient. Her disguise stabilized. Together, they passed the guards and entered the heart of enemy territory. The inside of the Pentagon was nothing like Elena remembered. The hallways were coated in pulsing purple tissue. The walls glowed with an eerie light. Strange sounds echoed everywhere. Clicks, hums, and whispers that seemed to form words just beyond understanding. Through her disguise, Elena saw how the Voidborn moved through this place. Some crawled along the walls. Others floated a few inches above the floor. All seemed connected, turning their heads in unison when something caught their attention. "This way," Y whispered through their secure channel. "The central command center should be down this corridor." The neural link with the Corsairs felt strange to Elena. Her thoughts weren't entirely her own anymore. She could sense the others, their fears, their determination. The efficiency of it was undeniable. They'd moved as one unit, perfectly coordinated. As they went deeper, they passed chambers filled with human captives. The sight made Elena's stomach turn. The humans were being transformed, purple tendrils growing into their bodies. Some were almost completely changed, their eyes glowing with the same light as the walls. "We can't help them," Dr. Rice Alpha's voice cautioned in her mind when Elena instinctively slowed. "Not yet. The weapon will save everyone who hasn't fully transformed." Finally, they'd reached a massive door covered in symbols that seemed to shift and change as they watched. One of the Corsair specialists worked on the lock while the others kept watch. The door slid open with a wet sound. Inside was a vast chamber. At its center floated a pulsing orb of purple-black energy, the hive-mind nexus. Thousands of tendrils stretched from it into the walls, floor, and ceiling. "Plant the weapon and let's go," Wei said urgently. But Elena had frozen in place. The orb was communicating with her. Through the neural link, she could sense its thoughts. "Wait," she gasped. "I can understand it. It's showing me something." Images flooded her mind. Another Earth, in another time. Humans evolving differently. Developing collective consciousness naturally. The Voidborn weren't aliens. They were humans from a parallel timeline where humanity had taken a different evolutionary path. "They think they're saving us," Elena whispered in horror. "They see individual consciousness as an evolutionary dead end. They're trying to help by making us like them." Wei shook his head. "Whatever they were once, they're our enemies now." They moved toward the Nexus. The Corsair specialist removed the temporal weapon, a small pyramid-shaped device that hummed with energy. Suddenly, alarms blared. Red light pulsed through the tissue-covered walls. "Intruder alert." 1,000 voices spoke at once. Human genetic patterns detected. Their disguises flickered and failed. "Run," Wei shouted, drawing his weapon. The Corsairs formed a protective circle, firing at Voidborn guards that poured into the chamber. Y placed the weapon near the Nexus and activated it. A blue light began to pulse from the device. "We have 5 minutes," he shouted. As they fought their way toward the exit, a tendril lashed out, wrapping around Y's leg. He cried out as it pierced his skin. Elena turned back to help him, but 3 more Voidborn blocked her path. "Go!" Y shouted, struggling as more tendrils wrapped around him. "Complete the mission." The Corsairs pulled Elena away as Y was dragged toward the Nexus. The tendrils weren't killing him. They were connecting him to the hive mind. The last thing Elena saw before they escaped the chamber was Y's face. His eyes had already begun to glow purple as the Voidborn began to convert him. "We have to go back for him," Elena shouted as they raced through the pulsing corridors. Alarms blared all around them. The walls themselves seemed alive with anger. "The weapon is counting down," one of the Corsair specialists said. "We have less than 5 minutes to clear the area." "I won't leave Y behind," Elena insisted, stopping in her tracks. Zoe grabbed her arm. "If we die here, everyone dies. The weapon needs to work." Elena knew she was right, but the image of Y's face, his eyes beginning to glow purple, haunted her. She made a quick decision. "You get to the extraction point," she told the others. "I'm going back." Before they could stop her, Elena turned and ran back toward the Nexus chamber. To her surprise, Dr. Rice Alpha followed. "You'll need the neural link to resist the hive mind's pull," her future self said. Together, they fought their way back through confused Voidborn guards. The enemy was in chaos, somehow sensing the danger of the temporal weapon. They reached the Nexus chamber to find Y floating near the pulsing orb. Purple tendrils had pierced his skin in dozens of places. His eyes were now completely purple. "He's partly converted already," Dr. Rice Alpha said grimly. Elena approached carefully. "Y. Commander Y. Can you hear me?" Y's head turned toward her. His voice came out strange, layered with other voices. "Elena, they're in my mind. So many voices. Fight it," Elena urged. "We need to get out of here. The weapon is about to activate." We struggled visibly. "I can hear them. All of them. They're afraid. The weapon. They know what it does." Dr. Rice Alpha checked the timer on her wrist. 3 minutes. "We need to move now." Elena reached for Y, but he jerked away. "Wait," he said, his voice clearing slightly. "I can see, through the hive mind. The Voidborn. They've already signaled to others. More are coming from nearby stars." Elena felt cold dread wash over her. "What are you saying?" "Even if we win today, there will be more. They'll keep coming." The temporal weapon pulsed faster, its blue light growing brighter. The Nexus orb writhed as if in pain. Suddenly, Captain Blackwood's voice came through their communicators. "All teams, report status. The weapon's temporal field is expanding faster than expected." "We found Y," Elena replied. "He's partially converted." "Get out now," Blackwood ordered. "The weapon's containment is failing. The temporal erasure could spread beyond our calculations." We looked at Elena, his eyes flickering between purple and his normal brown. "Someone needs to stay and make sure the weapon activates properly." "No," Elena protested. "We're all leaving." "I'm already part of them," Y said sadly. "I can feel the conversion spreading. But I can use this connection. I can hold the Nexus in place while the weapon does its work." Dr. Rice Alpha's expression showed she understood. "He's right. The Nexus is trying to escape the temporal field. Someone connected to it could prevent that." "Then I'll stay," Captain Blackwood's voice came through the comm. "I'm already on my way." The captain appeared at the chamber entrance, her enhanced body moving with impossible speed. "Get them out," she ordered her team. "I'll finish this." As they pulled Elena away, Blackwood approached Y. They looked at each other, the commander from the present and the captain from the future, both prepared to sacrifice everything. "For humanity," Y said. "For a better future than ours," Blackwood replied. The temporal weapon's light engulfed them both as Alina and the others fled toward the extraction point. The sky above Washington, D.C. turned strange colors as Alina and the survivors raced toward the extraction point. Blue lightning crackled through purple clouds. The ground shook beneath their feet. The temporal weapon is changing reality itself, Dr. Rice Alpha explained as they ran. Her body flickered occasionally, becoming transparent for a moment before solidifying again. They'd reached the stealth shuttle just as the Pentagon collapsed behind them. A wave of blue energy spread outward from where the building had stood. "Get us into orbit now," Dr. Rice Alpha ordered the pilot. As the shuttle rose through the atmosphere, Alina pressed her face against the viewport. Below, the blue wave washed over the land, erasing the purple void-borne structures as it passed. Where the wave had moved, green began to return to the Earth. "It's working," Zoe whispered in awe. "Look." The void-borne ships in orbit were dissolving like sand sculptures in the wind. The massive hive structures on the moon simply vanished. The pilot pushed the shuttle to maximum speed, racing to rendezvous with the remaining Corsair fleet above Earth. "The temporal shockwave is accelerating," one of the Corsairs warned. "We have minutes before it reaches us." On the command ship, remaining Corsairs worked frantically to prepare for departure. Their bodies flickered in and out of existence as the timeline rewrote itself around them. Captain Blackwood and Commander Wee succeeded, Lieutenant Ryer announced. "The Voidborn are being erased from this timeline completely." Alina looked at the Corsairs with tears in her eyes. "You're disappearing too." Dr. Rice Alpha nodded, her form becoming more transparent by the second. "Our timeline will never exist now. The 300 years of war, the changes we made to ourselves, none of it will happen in your future. You're sacrificing yourselves for us," Alina said. "We're giving humanity a second chance," her future self replied with a sad smile. "A chance to remain human." The Corsair fleet began to ascend rapidly, trying to outrun the temporal shockwave. "Before we go," Dr. Rice Alpha said, placing a data crystal in Alina's hand, "take this. It contains all our technology, our history, our knowledge. Not so you can become like us, but so you can choose a better path." On the main screen, they watched Earth transform. The purple clouds dispersed. The oceans returned to blue. It was as if the Voidborn had never been there at all. "Look at that," Zoe breathed. "It's beautiful." The Corsair ships began to shimmer and fade as the new timeline asserted itself. "Remember us," were Dr. Rice Alpha's final words before she vanished completely. 6 months later, Alina stood at the window of the new United Earth Defense Command. Below, green grass covered the rebuilt Pentagon grounds. The skies were clear blue, with no sign of the horrors that had once filled them. Beside her, Zoe worked at a computer terminal, implementing another piece of Corsair technology, modified to preserve individual consciousness while allowing limited voluntary cooperation. "The lunar base just came online," Zoe reported, "and the Mars defense grid passed all tests." "And the early warning system?" Alina asked. "Active and scanning. If anything like the Voidborn appears within 50 light years, we'll know." Through the window, Alina watched as the first ship of Earth's new fleet rose into the sky. It was sleek and powerful, built with technology centuries ahead of what humanity had possessed before the invasion. On its side was a symbol, a black flag with crimson stars. Not the mark of pirates from the future, but a reminder of those who had sacrificed everything to give humanity a second chance. The ship's name was painted in bold letters across its hull. EDS Temporal Vengeance. "Ready for new worlds," Alina said softly as the ship disappeared into the clouds. "But this time, on our own terms." Earth had been saved. Humanity would face the stars united, but still wonderfully, powerfully individual. And somewhere in time and space, Alina liked to think that Captain Blackwood and Commander Way were smiling.